Hi, everyone. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jeff.
And you're listening to We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast where we do exactly what the title says. On today's episode, we're judging the pilot of one of Jeff's favorite shows.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hi, everyone.
So it has been a pretty crazy 2.5 weeks. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Slightly,
yes. Just a little bit. Yeah, so we are 2.5 weeks post Anna's Achilles surgery, and the cast was taken off today, and now you have the boot, which better, worse?
I feel like it's worse because it's heavier.
Yeah.
I feel more supported, but they also took, like, the coverings off of the stitches, and now I can feel things on the back of my ankle, so it's more sensitive.
Air's touching your foot.
Yeah, I don't know if it's air per se,
right.
But it's whatever it is. It's
exposed.
Now exposed, and
yeah.
I have this boot, so now I need to figure this out. As I think I mentioned to you before we went to this appointment, I kind of would have been fine keeping what I had on. I felt like I was used to it.
Yeah.
And I had been able to maneuver it. And this is a whole nother animal.
Thing, yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
we're on the way. We're almost to the halfway point.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we are on day 19 post-surgery of 42 to get this now boot off. So it's now about 23 more days until the boot is off. So
okay, that's not...
It's not horrible.
That's not
23
horrible.
Sounds better than 42.
Yes. Yes. Because the math in my head, I wasn't even trying to do it. So, so today's episode's kind of funny because I almost backed out of doing this one.
And I kind of talked you back into it.
You kind of talked me back into it. I wasn't sure if I was ready to really reveal probably one of my greatest guilty pleasures of all time, and that's Degrassi: The Next Generation.
Degrassi.
Yeah, so I did watch the original Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High from the 80s and 90s. We watched it in health class when I was in 9th grade. And
you watched that in health class?
We watched it in health class.
Wow.
Yep. And, I mean, yeah.
I guess that's better than, watching stuff about pregnancies and periods.
I think it was
stuff.
Specifically, it was the episode where Spike got pregnant.
Oh, well, there you go.
And, which goes with, this first episode. And also, the pilot for Degrassi: The Next Generation, I forgot it was this.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was aired this is a Canadian show, when it was aired in America, they didn't show the pilot as the pilot. It was actually episode 4 that I saw first, which was actually it's called Eye of the Beholder, and it's a really good episode. It was not this episode, but I kind of remembered right as we were starting to watch it. And then that was when I was like, maybe we shouldn't do this because it's so not off from the rest of Degrassi, but compared to the rest of season 1, it is completely
jolting
completely out of nowhere. It's more par for the course of what Degrassi would eventually become. But yeah, season 1, it was they did this, and we'll get into the summary. But just for comparison, the episode after this is a stepbrother and a stepsister run against each other for student council president.
Very different, than this episode.
Yeah. All right. So we are doing Degrassi: The Next Generation. Anna's going to give us some episode and series information. This show has an entire universe. This show was a huge part of pop culture for a really long time. So, Anna, I think I gave you a lot to say, so I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. And also, we are dog sitting for our friend Alicia's dog, Max.
Look at him.
He is sleeping on the ottoman, so you might hear a little jingle jangle around, or maybe he might bark at us to give him attention.
If my dad and my stepmom ever learn how to use a podcast and ever decide to listen to this podcast, as much as we love Frankie, Max is so good.
Max is good. Max is our little baby. He's like our little god dog baby. All right, Degrassi: The Next Generation, and the pilot premiered on CTV in Canada on October 14th, 2001. It was called Mother and Child Reunion. Degrassi, The Next Generation ran from 2001 to 2015 for 14 seasons with a total of 385 episodes. It's amazing to me.
Yep.
No shows are like that
Nope.
any longer. The series is a continuation of the cult phenomenon Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High, or Degrassi Classic, a Canadian teen soap opera that ran from 1987 to 1993 and spawned a made-for-TV movie called Degrassi School's Out, which became famous for being the first show in Canadian television to use the F word on network television.
They said it twice.
And I actually, while we're doing Degrassi The Next Generation, I remember Degrassi Junior High from when I was in high school, and I watched that. But we're not doing that one right now.
I came really close to doing that one. We will at some point.
Yeah.
We have to.
The Next Generation was created by Linda Schuyler and Jan Moore. Moore was a writer and producer on Degrassi Classic. Schuyler was one of the two original creators of Degrassi Classic. She started out as a school teacher and saw how interesting the interactions between her students were, how the times were changing, that kids were growing up faster and dealing with bigger problems at younger ages. Schuyler also realized that there weren't too many TV programs where kids were actually taken seriously.
That's pretty true.
And yeah, as we're doing this,
Yeah.
I mean, we can look back on some of the shows that we talked about for me in my era. They weren't. She began making short films and eventually began her first iteration of Degrassi, The Kids of Degrassi Street. The series focused on elementary age students. And it's really hard to find episodes of that series.
Yeah, it really is.
So Kids of Degrassi Street is not canon. She would later develop, along with Kit Hood, Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High, and they insisted on casting actors who were actually preteens and teenagers.
Another thing they did not do on TV in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. The original series focused on issues such as teen pregnancy, homophobia, racism, drug use, alcoholism, bullying, shoplifting, and child abuse.
Just to name a few.
Just a few. A continuation of Next Generation called Degrassi Next Class would run for an additional
The show never ended.
4 seasons on Netflix, and this is so far the final entry in the series.
For a while, it really just never ended.
The Next Generation takes place 10 years after the original class graduated from high school. It focuses on the students, parents, and faculty of the newly constructed Degrassi Community School. Original Degrassi Junior High character, teen mom Spike Nelson's 12-year-old daughter, will now be attending. Snake, also known as Mr. Simpson, is the new computer teacher. Degrassi, The Next Generation, is best known for launching the careers of Nina Dobrev, who played Mia Jones from season 6 and 8, and she left at the beginning of season 9 to star in Vampire Diaries. And she also starred in one of me and Jeff's favorite movies, The Final Girls.
Also filmed in Baton Rouge.
And probably the most famous person to come from Degrassi is Aubrey Graham, who played Jimmy Brooks from seasons 1 to 8. And in case you don't know, Aubrey Graham is rapper Drake.
Pretty insane.
Many celebrities were guest stars, including Keke Palmer. I love her.
Love her. Scream Queens.
Natasha Bedingfield, Pete Wentz, Billy Ray Cyrus, Chaz Bono, Perez Hilton, Jason Mewes, and my fave, Alanis Morissette. Filmmaker Kevin Smith, who is a diehard fan of old school Degrassi, was a big supporter of the revival and was even set to play Caitlin's fiance Keith, but he had a scheduling conflict, and he would later play a fictionalized version of himself later in the series.
He's really funny.
You can find the entire series of Degrassi, The Next Generation on Max and Tubi, and you can find episodes of Degrassi Junior High and High on YouTube and Tubi. So those are the deets of Degrassi.
So you did watch Degrassi Junior High back in the day?
Yes, I will be honest, I don't remember a lot of it because that I left for college soon after it started. But I do remember watching it and would watch if it came up because I did like it.
It was a PBS. Yeah, it would come on PBS.
Yeah.
And I think like there wasn't ever like a set schedule. It would just randomly just come on when it came on.
I'm sure they were probably filling airtime on PBS.
Yeah. So I think a good question for me is why did I like this show so much? Because when it came out, I was when this came out in the U.S., it was the summer before my senior year of high school, so it was kind of like
you felt the vibe.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was like it's the summer before my last year of high school. I'm about to go off into the world, and here comes this show that just reminds me of younger days where my life was just a little bit more simpler. Not that my life was so complicated when I was 17, but it was a lot less complicated than when I was 12, 13, 14. And all of these, at least in season 1, not the pilot, but at least in season 1, a lot of issues that they dealt with were very much things that you dealt with when you were 12 and 13. Something that isn't as big of a deal as you get older, but feel like a big deal when you're, 12, 13 years old. I think what kept me watching Degrassi as the show progressed was, one, I kind of just really liked the characters and kind of liked how they developed the show originally. But as it progressed, I just probably a lot of the reason why you would watch shows like Melrose Place, it's like I reached a point where I'm like, okay, the show can't get any more insane. The show can't get any more insane.
Well, were there ever any points that you felt like you wanted to stop watching?
Yes. I mean, like there were times where I would just watch this show and I'm just like, I need a break. Like I need to take a break from this show. Like it would just get really intense. But I eventually just had to, there were times where I had to stop, and then I remember it was when we first met and we were texting each other, and I was watching like one of the last seasons of Next Generation, and I was like just messaging you these like random ass things that were happening. I don't even know if you remember this, but like I was messaging you like these really random storylines. You're like, what are you watching?
Oh, probably.
And I was like, what are you watching? I was like, I'm watching Degrassi, and this is crazy. And I'm not gonna get too much into because this is like 14 seasons later, but like I had to just stop watching the show. I just reached a point where I'm like, I'll go back and rewatch like older, like earlier seasons.
Well, do you have a favorite storyline that actually happened? Like a good one?
So there's one. So season 4 is kind of like my favorite season that had like the most storylines that I became interested in. There was this. It's been a long time. I'm unlocking the vault. There's the Breakfast Club episode where there was like the Saturday detention episode.
Oh, fun.
It was called Take On Me. So a lot of their episodes for a really long time were songs of were titles that were 80s songs. So that was what a lot of it was. So Take On Me it's called the Breakfast Club episode. It's my favorite in the sense that it is the most unforgettable episode. It's the school shooter episode.
Yeah.
Trigger warning, sorry.
I've watched that one with you.
Yes, when you kind of found out some of the lore in Degrassi, you were like, "Oh, I want to watch that episode." I'm like, "It's a lot."
Oh, it was.
And there were other storylines that I liked. A lot of the stuff that I liked was just when they were just hanging out and like being friends. Like I think that was it once it got to like season 8 and 9, it was like every episode was like, I'm pregnant, I have chlamydia, I have it was always just
I have an
something
eating disorder.
It was just something.
My parents are getting divorced.
It just kept getting more and more intense. And up until like season like 5, it was very much just like I love the episodes where it was just them like hanging out and it was just them like being friends and having fun. Like I think those were the ones.
No drama happening.
And, well, I mean drama, but like on a normal high school
level.
show. Yeah,
Okay.
They reached like Melrose Place, Riverdale extremes at some point.
Wow. All right. Well, did you have a favorite character? So we now know some of your favorite storylines, your favorite season, but what about a favorite
So later
character?
in the show, there was a character, his name was Eli. I know this is really weird. It sounds like kind of strange that I'm saying this, but like he was kind of like fascinated with death. He like drove a hearse. Like I just like thought he was like such an interesting character that had never really been on TV before. And they gave him like realistic issues. They didn't give him like they didn't give him like over the top issues. Like he had bipolar disorder. He had developed like a hoarding kind of thing. And he's also played by Monroe Chambers, who is in a movie called Turbo Kid, which is like one of my favorite like B movies.
Okay.
So yeah, I just really like the actor that played him. My other favorite character, you'll like this, is her name was Ellie. She was played by Stacey Farber. She was the girl from Schitt's Creek that was the redhead on the barbecue.
Yeah, the girlfriend.
Patrick's ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
That's Dan Levy's like best friend. So
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, she was my favorite character too. She had a very intense storyline where she had an alcoholic mother, and she was a cutter, and there was like a lot of a very emo, also very emo, wore black. All right, so this is all about a high school. So a lot of this storyline for the pilot is about a high school reunion. I have never attended a high school reunion. I don't even think a high school reunion has ever happened with my class, just because there were so many. We had like 400 kids in my graduating class, so like getting a reunion is like kind of impossible.
Kind of herding cats.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I know that you went to a smaller school than that. You went to a magnet school, it was a little bit smaller, and you're still in contact with a lot of people that you went to high school with. Have you been to any of your high school reunions?
Yes, I think I've been to all of mine.
God bless you.
Yeah. But I mean, like we've talked about before, I'm still friends with people that I've known since kindergarten.
Yes.
I mean, and a lot of them were also in my high school, and I think I went to a small school, and now I'm not going to say I was best friends with everyone in my class, but I think I probably knew by name like 97% of the people in my class. And if I didn't know their name, it was probably because like they like didn't talk to people themselves. So, yeah, I've been to all of mine. I have not planned any of them. I did have actually planned several of my law school reunions. Most recent high school reunion was in what year is this?
I think 2023. Was it 2022?
Yeah, 2022. We was in New Orleans, and it was around the end of October. Went to that one. It was 2-day, 3-day. I went to just one of the days and hung out with friends, took pictures. We have a fun class, and I think there are still pods of groups within my high school class that still hang out. I just went on a girls' trip with several of my friends to Biloxi. Shout out to Kelly, Laura, Lisa, Pam. We went to the casino, the pool, and hung out. It rained all weekend. But yeah, I love a reunion. Now, I will go ahead and say, and this is for anyone listening, I would never force you to come to one of my reunions. A lot of my friends, but I just have never understood why people want to drag their spouse unless they maybe also went to that school and knew some of the people. Like maybe they were a year older, a year younger. But I just have always looked at the spouses, male or female, and they just look miserable to me.
Yes,
and I am like, why are you here? And that's probably one of the reasons I have never planned any of our reunions, because I would actually ban spouses and
No
children. No plus ones, no kids, no family time.
That's funny.
I'm about like, let's just us talk. Like none of those people were around when we were in high school, and they don't care. So yeah, those are my thoughts on reunions.
I've always said that if it ever, I mean, I don't even remember who our class president was. I have zero memory of that. But if my class of 2003, if y'all ever get it together and do a reunion, like, I'll go. I'm not going to pay like $200 or
that's like another thing with ours is it's always very inexpensive at a local bar or something. And that's the way like my law school ones have been. You were actually going to go with me to my most recent one, but my mom like literally got pretty sick that day, and we ended up going to take care of her that evening. And I had to miss it. And that was the first one of those that I had missed, because I had planned the like most recent 2 of those. And this year is actually my 25th year reunion for my law school class. So
Goodness.
I don't know what's happening with that. I'm sure someone will ask me to help plan it, but anyway, so yeah, I'm big on reunions if you want to go, and if you don't want to go, more power to you as well.
Yeah, I think
I get it.
I think if you went to a big high school, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but I think if you went to a big high school, then the people that you still talk to, like, that's kind of it. Like, I can't imagine. I just can't ever imagine them getting my class together for reunions.
It's like my brother and sister went to the same high school,
Right.
but my brother has gone to his. I mean, I think he's about to celebrate one of his bigger ones, like I want to say like 50th or something.
wow.
I could be wrong. Maybe I'm making him older than he is. It might be 40th. Anyway, but my sister, she doesn't really go to her reunions, but she keeps in touch with her friends from her high school class. Like, I know she just went and had lunch with a couple of her high school classmates this past weekend. So she sees her friends when she wants to already. And then I think one of her reunions recently, it was outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not going to spend this to talk to people that I already talked to on my own.
Right.
So
that's always kind of been my take on it.
Yeah.
For the most
so
part.
I get it. I get if
Yeah.
you don't want to go. And to me, if you're planning a reunion, don't make it expensive. No
Right.
one has time for that.
It doesn't need to be fancy.
It doesn't need to be fancy.
Yeah.
We've always just come in like jeans and t-shirts and whatever. None of mine, I don't think, have ever been super fancy. So I appreciate that. All right. Anyway.
All right. So one of the storylines is about a high school reunion. The other storyline has to do with trigger warning and online predator. We live in a world, so Degrassi, like this iteration in 2001, this was kind of the beginning of the internet era.
Oh, yeah.
Email. I mean, they were referring to the internet as the net. I mean, like, it's, that's what you called it back then.
Electronic mail
you
or
called
something.
It, you called it an email, and like you had a desktop and that was it, or a laptop and that was it. Like
barely
that was
even laptops. You were
Right.
rich if you had a laptop.
Right. I mean, like, and yeah, she had, it was, so it was kind of like this new era for parents to kind of be aware of, this is what your child is doing now. They're on the internet talking to strangers. Do you have, just from over the years, do you have any, like, maybe not necessarily creepy, but do you have any, like, memorable online stories about, like, meeting someone from online, or like having like an interaction with someone online?
Well, I just remember, so this is how dated and old I am. I did not have my own personal computer until around 1997.
Okay.
Because I was in law school and I was working on an appellate brief, and I would get to school really early every single day to go and work on the computers at the law school. And I got really tired of waking up at like 5:30 in the morning
Right.
to take the bus to be at the school
That
at like
sucks.
7 when it opened.
Right.
So one night I kind of went crazy and used my credit card and called Gateway, because that was the only like computer company I had heard of. I mean, I didn't know, to be honest, where you got a computer. I mean, I
Pretty
just,
much, yeah.
And so I knew of Gateway. It was the famous cow boxes from North Dakota or somewhere. And I had like a zero balance credit card. And when talking to the customer service rep, I said, what computer can get here the fastest? And so she was like, okay, well, we have like the low model, the fancy bougie model, or like the mid kind of. It's got some features.
Right.
It's not as fancy, but
Like
it's not the worst.
The affordable one.
Yes,
that you would
but it
say is
had some of the good stuff.
What the best for your the best bang for your buck.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
So
Got
I
it.
said, send me that one. Charge it up.
Give me that mid.
Give me that middle base, model to go. And so I remember going to Walmart and getting my little computer desk. It was actually the desk that was in the front room of my mom's living room.
I remember.
That was the computer desk I had from law school on.
Super cute.
And so I remember my friend Anne, who was in law school class, and my friend Alex. They both had AOL, and they both had AOL usernames, and I'm not going to say them, but they had email, and I didn't have an email. I think I had one from law school, but I didn't use it because I didn't have a computer.
Yeah.
Maybe I used it at school, but I don't really think I did. So anyway, I remember downloading or getting the AOL. I don't even know how you got it. I really do not even know.
You would buy it.
But it was free.
You would get the CD.
Maybe it was the
and
CD.
you would install it into your computer.
Into the hard drive.
I remember the
but
AOL.
It was free until
I remember the AOL
moved.
CD, yeah.
It was free until I moved to Seattle because I remember that was when they started
yeah.
charging for email. And I was like, well, Yahoo is free, so
Yeah.
I'm not paying for AOL. But so I do remember chat rooms. You would get a profile and people would start messaging you and wanting you to go to their chat rooms. And of course, there's the famous You've Got Mail movie that even heightened those things. I love that movie.
You love that movie.
But as for any like super creepy online stories,
and that can include further, more current with, I mean, like with like dating apps and all that kind of stuff. Because I mean, like, you know, internet has definitely progressed since 2001.
I think I was pretty I feel like I was pretty vigilant on when I was talking to people through a dating app. I mean, between
I can see that.
Me and my friends, like if, you know, I will say that obviously prior to meeting you, I would like maybe meet someone for a coffee if I was on a work trip or something.
You met other men.
I did.
Before me.
I know. I'm so sorry.
I'm so jealous.
But I would always like bring one of my friends with me to go and meet someone. It would always be the first time in a public place. But my other thing was I, first off, would always have a very strict rule because the only phone I have is my work telephone.
Yeah.
So I was always very adamant that I did not want any explicit photos. I was like, I do not want that, and I am not sending them. I have never sent anything like that. I have never received anything like that. I mean, maybe I received it, I deleted it, and I stopped talking to that person. Yeah. But it was always one of the very first things I ever said. So I always felt like anyone who would continue talking to me really respected that. It's not to say that they weren't maybe creepy guys, but they at least respected that rule off the bat. No, I think I maybe told you about the time when I was in Houston that the guy did not look like his photo.
I think we talked about that on another episode.
Yeah. That was a weird one. I mean, I think it was who he was, but I think it was a professional photograph, and then he just didn't look like that, like normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the day of AOL. I can see how the chat would evolve, but I'm very much, and you can attest to, as we talked in our initial time of dating app time, I just one night said, hey, do you want to meet up? Do you want to go here? You suggested a place that was actually closed. I suggested a place around the corner, and we met up, and you know, you were what your picture looked like.
Right.
I was what my picture looked like.
We were the people we said we were.
Yes. And we talked for about 2 or 3 hours after that over a couple of drinks about TV shows and reality shows.
We've been talking about TV shows since the day we met.
And on this pod. So I feel like I was pretty forward in my online if I was going to meet someone. Especially if I felt like I was maybe interested in like at least just meeting you. Yeah. I would be like, okay, well, let's, you know, that's why I think I'm fascinated by the show Catfish. It's like, I mean, that's
my hotel TV show.
Yeah. I'm like, you've been talking to this person for 5 years and you've never met them.
Those are my favorite. What? Those are my favorite episodes when they're like, I've been talking to this person for 12 years online. I've never met them. And I've only seen 2 pictures
and I love
them.
And
we've never FaceTimed. We've never Zoomed.
Never Skyped.
I've only seen 2 pictures. Yeah. But they're the one.
They are it. I love them. I've sent them money. Yeah. So that is so not in my nature. Yeah. I am very much like, I don't know. I pre-knew about, I I didn't even know the word catfish, to be honest.
Yep.
I avoided that because I was just very much like,
Yep.
I need to know you're a real person and not some
Right.
online predator. So I think that's how I avoided it. I was pretty forward.
Pretty smart. Yeah. Well, I have my one.
Oh gosh, yes.
I have my one dating app story that
Yes, tell us.
that needs to be on a YouTube Let's Read at some point in time. Okay, so it was when I was on dating apps before we met. Obviously, it was
You
probably,
dated women before
probably
me?
yes, I did. Sorry. I was on dating apps and I was casually dating. I wasn't really like looking for anything serious, and I was very kind of clear about that. But I too kind of had like my own rules. I was very safe. I would meet them first in a public place, and then if it was leading to something else, then we would figure that out. But for the most part, I was very safe and I was very smart. There was one night where I was not being very smart. I was not thinking with the brain in my head, and sorry,
What?
boo. Sorry, boo.
What?
So I've been talking to this person on. I think it was Plenty of Fish, because Plenty of Catfish, Plenty of Fish, and we had been talking for maybe a few days, and I mean, there was nothing that made me think anything otherwise, that she was lying about who she was, but we'd only been talking for a few days, so it wasn't like I was thinking much of it. And then there was one night where she messaged me and she was like, hey, do you want to meet? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then she was just like, well, can you meet me at my house? Because I don't have a car. And I'm just like, can I pick you up and we can go somewhere? And she was, yes. And so I'm like, okay. I still didn't feel that great about it, but I was just like, okay, at least there's like, she's not expecting me to like go to our house. Because I watch a lot of horror movies. I watch a lot of true crime. I watch a lot of documentaries. So yeah, like my brain is always reeling with stuff like this, especially when you're, doing this by yourself, no matter what your gender is, like you're leaving yourself to be very vulnerable when you put yourself in situations like this. So she told me where she lived, and this is no shade. I'm not judging anyone. I've lived in a trailer park before.
I've wanted to live in a trailer.
I have
True
no
story.
issue with it. When she said she lived in a trailer park, I had no issue with it. I didn't think twice about it. We live in a very rural area, so I mean, like I grew up in a very rural area, so I have no issues with it. I did not even think twice about it. So I'm like, okay, I'll come and pick you up. And so she tells me where she lives and which house was hers, and they were like numbered. And so she's like, okay, let's just say that she said it was number 32. So I'm like, okay. So I enter the trailer park, and I see that the even numbers are on the left. So I'm like, okay. So I start going down. I start counting. I'm like, okay. I'm like 2, 4, kind of going down, and then it gets to let's just say like 20 or 21. Or 22, like early 20s, and the pavement turns into gravel. There are no more lights, and all of the trailers from that point on look abandoned. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I got the number wrong. So I went and looked on the app, looked at the message, and it said 30 whatever. I make this joke all the time. It was literally the last house on the left. And I was like, okay, so when I looked down and I saw the number, I'm like, okay, like I saw the number right. I then look up, and still to this day, I don't know if I just scared myself or if I really saw this. I'm usually not one to make stuff up, so I'm assuming that I saw what I saw was real. I saw kind of 3 shadowy like figures come out from the very like end of the road, and they're like standing at the end of the road. They start walking towards my car, and so I just hit the reverse and I got the crap out of there. I did not care what the situation was, if it was a misunderstanding, what it was, but like I immediately got a bad feeling, and I saw those 3 figures kind of walking towards the car, and I'm just like, I'm about to get robbed. I'm about to get robbed.
Or
I'm about to get
killed.
murdered. I'm about to get murdered, robbed, car stolen. They're not going to find much of any of that. They're not going to find much money, and my car was really old at this point. So, like,
did you ever message her like after you left?
No, I think she messaged me, but I'm going to be completely honest, I was so scared to read that message. I think that was when I deleted my Plenty of Fish account.
Oh, okay.
Pretty sure, because I was like, whatever app it was, I deleted that account. And so I knew it couldn't have been OkCupid. So, because that's where we met.
Yeah.
So that is my creepy online story.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that story.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, and nowadays you hear about it, you hear about it with like Uber drivers and DoorDash people coming to pick someone up and they get attacked. So I can totally see how 8+ years ago that could have happened through a dating app and, all of these things. So be vigilant out there.
For real.
Don't be afraid to set your own boundaries and have your own dating rules.
Just don't be afraid to like, right. Just don't be afraid to be like, no, I have rules. Let's meet in a public place. And if they don't want to do that, there's something wrong.
Correct.
There's something wrong.
Because like when I messaged you that night, and I said, hey, do you want to meet up? Because there was a lot actually going on. I think I would have been okay with you saying no that night that we met, because Maddie was in town and you were having a lot of family time. You had been to Blue Bayou. It was a crazy day.
That was a day.
And so I knew you were tired, but I was just like, okay, we've been talking for almost a week. I need to know if he's real and if this is someone I could actually keep talking to. And look, we're still talking.
We married.
So you didn't hesitate. You made a suggestion. We found out it was closed. We made another suggestion, and the rest is history.
The rest is
history. All right. So the plot of the pilot.
Yes, let's get into the mother and child reunion plot summary. All right, we said before, just trigger warning, just for anyone, this story does deal with an online predator, essentially grooming a minor. So you can kind of take your conclusion on what you would want to call someone that does that. Here we go. Mother and child reunion. All right, it's the final days of summer, and Degrassi alum Spike Nelson's 12-year-old daughter Emma is about to start her first year at the newly constructed Degrassi Community School. Spike and Emma are close, but Spike is not aware that her daughter has an online boyfriend that she's never met named Jordan. The only people that know are her best friends Manny and JT. Meanwhile, all the original characters from Degrassi High are preparing for their high school reunion. Snake, aka Mr. Simpson, is the new computer teacher and is organizing the reunion. Spike, Emma, Manny, and JT go to Degrassi and meet Mr. Simpson to drop off stuff for the reunion. While there, JT runs into his old friend from camp, Toby. Toby and his dad just moved to the area, and Toby is starting at Degrassi in the fall. So it's Toby and his stepsister, Ashley, that run against each other for class president. It's JT and Ashley that run against each other, and it's Toby, like, because Toby, they're like step siblings, and they're like they're like rivals and stuff. All right. Yeah, that's the episode that follows this one. All right, so Toby. So Toby's like, me and my dad just moved here. We just moved in with my dad's girlfriend. We're living in Toronto now. I'm going to Degrassi in the fall. So Toby tags along with Emma, Manny, and JT to the park. But before Emma sneaks into the computer lab to check and see if there's an email from Jordan, because that's what you had to do. There were no phones. You had to sneak into a computer lab, plug it in, make sure it has a dial-up, and all right, so they go to the park where they talk about Emma's online boyfriend. Emma says Jordan is a high schooler, lives in Yellowknife, which from Toronto to Yellowknife, it's like a few thousand miles away, so it's very, very far away. And is an activist like Emma. Degrassi, so I'm kind of flipping back and forth between the Degrassi alums and the little kids, so that's kind of what I'm going to be doing throughout this episode, because that's kind of how they filmed it. Degrassi alumni are starting to arrive in town. Lucy visits Joey, who runs a used car dealership. Joey is happy to see his old friend, but says he's not going to the reunion. After the death of his wife Julia, Joey has focused on his business and his 5-year-old daughter Angie, played by the real life little sister of Cassie Steele, who played Manny. They were actually sisters, and her name was Alexa Steele, and she would come back like season 11 and play a completely different character. She played like she was old enough to be a high school student by that point, and so she played a different character. Joey's high school sweetheart Caitlin has arrived in town. She's made it big as a journalist with her own TV show. She arrives at the school in a limo to meet Spike and Snake. Emma arrives at her house and meets Caitlin, whom she's like a really big fan of. They're both activists, and she kind of Caitlin's doing what Emma wants to do with her life. She then receives an email from Jordan. Jordan says he's going on a class trip to Toronto and wants to meet Emma. Lucy convinces Joey to meet up with her, Snake, Spike, and Caitlin at the bar. He agrees, and finally, everyone finally meets Caitlin's fiance, hotshot producer Keith. Keith immediately comes across like an a-hole. Like, I'm always like, that's what always fascinates me about when we watch these shows. And like, you know, when you watch certain shows, we have another show that we're doing this month that kind of has the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like when you are in a relationship with someone who is so clearly an asshole, how could you be with that person? Like, that's always like kind of my thing. Like I guess when you're with someone who's like very like kind of subtle with their meanness, but when you're just someone who's just such a belligerent jerk, I'm just like, oh, I'm so in love with him. Like, I've never understood that in TV shows.
No.
And it always seems like, I'm like, why are you with them? It doesn't even seem like you like them. And that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from this. It's like, it doesn't even seem like you like him. Maybe it's a status thing. Maybe it's because he's a producer and he has money and he has the status. Who knows? That's just something that always like kind of annoys me. It's like dating the jerk. It's like, you know, why would you do that? So he even like makes fun of Joey's car commercials, saying that like he comes across as a used car salesman, and it's like, yeah, I'm a used car salesman.
So you're right. That I guess and my commercials are working,
and it's a local commercial. So it's like, what are you know, of course. So Joey like gets kind of annoyed, walks away from the table, goes to the bar. Snake follows him. So Snake and Joey were like best friends in high school. And Snake kind of tries to console him, and Joey's just like, you know, I don't need to be consoled, and you know, and Snake's just like, I can't believe you're not going to the reunion, and Joey's just like, I don't want to go because everyone's just gonna be treating me with kid gloves because, you know, my wife passed away, and you know, Snake's just like, that might be so, but like Julia would hate to see you cutting off the rest of the world. Like
right.
She would hate to see you and use her as an excuse. Like that's not honoring her memory. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So Spike, Lucy, and Caitlin return to Spike's house. They're a little tipsy. They've been drinking, and they accidentally wake up Emma. Caitlin sits with Emma on the stairs, and they have a little private conversation. Emma asks Caitlin for advice. Of course, she's leaving out very important details, like, I've never met this guy. I don't know what he looks like. He's there's a good reason why my friends are concerned about him wanting to meet me. So she's kind of just saying that, like, I have this guy, there's this guy that I like, but my friends don't think I should be with him. What should I do? And so Caitlin, once again, the generational gap, she's not thinking about the internet. She's not thinking about that it could possibly be an online boyfriend. She's thinking a real life person, because in 2001, I think majority of people would be thinking that. The idea of an online boyfriend was not the norm back then. I mean, like, having an online boyfriend, it's like, you're weird, you know, but now it's like, well, of course you do. It's like, what else kind of boyfriend would you have? So she kind of says, so Caitlin tells Emma, like, look, if you like this guy, you should go for it. Obviously not realizing he's an online boyfriend. So Emma emails Jordan back saying she wants to meet. He says his class is staying at a nearby hotel and tells her to wait in the lobby, and he'll come down to meet her. Another thing that I think Toby pointed out when he was like, oh, he's on a class trip. He's on a class trip in Toronto. He's like, it's summer. It's just like, it's summertime.
Oh, I forgot he said that.
Yeah, he's like, it's summer. Like, you know, you have this completely new person, like, kind of in the mix, who's just like, and he's like, you kind of find out later in the episode that he's really tech savvy. He knows a lot about like the internet and stuff. So he's just like, yeah, you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who you're talking to. And she tries to be like, well, I've known him a lot longer than I've known. I've seen pictures, and I've known him a lot longer than I know.
And it's the same two pictures over and over again.
Yes. And but also we kind of find out that Emma hasn't been honest with Jordan. She said she's a high schooler, so she's 12 years old. So like, she's also not being honest. So yeah, the reunion finally arrives. Stay at a nearby hotel, tells her to wait in the lobby, and he'll come down to meet her. The reunion finally arrives. Joey does decide to attend. While getting a drink, he overhears Keith, Caitlin's fiance, talking to Allison, a former classmate. This character was such a non-character of the show. It was really amazing that they got back the original actress, like that played Allison on Degrassi Junior High, because she was such a supporting side character. Like I had to look up her character just to see who she was. He tells her that like he doesn't want to get married, and as soon as he makes it big, he's leaving Caitlin, which is a pretty bold thing to say.
Like
a pretty bold thing to say to someone who went to high school with your fiance.
That's just random, yeah.
Someone that you just met, right? So Emma goes to the hotel to meet Jordan. While waiting in the lobby, she meets Jordan's teacher. I put that in quotations. He looks like he's in his mid-20s. He's good looking. Seems like a nice guy. He tells Emma that Jordan said he was meeting a girl named Emma and was just asking if that was her. She says, yes, my name is Emma. I'm here to meet Jordan. He's carrying a pizza, and he's just like, look, I'm pretty sure they're still, the guys are all still upstairs. Why don't you come up with me, and that's where you can meet Jordan. Right out of the gate, right off the bat, how of a bad vibe is that already? Like, how even your 12-year-old mind, I'm trying to, like, go back into the mind of a 12-year-old, which is really hard, but, like...
And again, I'm different in the sense of, like, I don't think I would have ever, even if I had the internet and email and online chat.
Let's just say that you did, and that you're in this situation. You nor I would probably put ourselves in this situation. I would be way too scared at 12 years old to do that.
Correct. Yeah.
12 years old, I was at 97. I was using chat rooms back then, and I would have never in my life. So yeah, I just immediately, you just know something's not right. Maybe it's because you've seen the episode, or we're watching this through a 2024 lens, and it's very obvious. But also when you're 12, 13, unfortunately, your instinct is to trust adults. I mean, like there is kind of that element.
And he
to
knows
it as well.
the story.
Right.
He's like, oh, I'm his teacher, and yes, we're on a class trip. So I mean, he's of course created the story, so he knows how to play into her. Here's hoping she should have said, oh, well, can you go get him and bring him down? If not, but...
Unfortunately, she doesn't. She takes the invitation, assuming Jordan will be there waiting for him. She goes upstairs with Jordan's teacher. So Manny's getting worried about Emma. She's calling her house. No answer. Went by her house. No one's home. She goes over to JT's house, who's hanging out with Toby, and is like, hey, I think Emma's in trouble. I haven't like been able to get a hold of her. I think she went to meet Jordan. Toby's really tech savvy, so he offers his help to try and hack Emma's email to find out like where the hotel is or where they're meeting, or to just really any information. Emma follows Jordan's teacher up to the hotel room. No surprise, the room is empty, and it doesn't take long for Emma to realize that there is no Jordan, and that this man is the person who's been pretending to be Jordan's.
And he's still sort of fibbing. I mean, he knocks on the mutual door and is like, hey guys, come over and get pizza, and you don't hear a thing, and no one ever comes over. Like, he doesn't even, like, why does he knock on the door? Like, why doesn't
knocking on his door, not opening the door and then knocking on their door?
It's again a lot of things that should seem, but of course she's 12, so she doesn't know those things yet.
Okay, so this is the only creepy part I'm going to talk about. He locks Emma in the room, makes her sit on the bed with him while he records on the camera. Nothing happens, so don't worry. They literally just sit on the bed. He does say some creepy things, but we're not going to get into that. Toby finally hacks into Emma's email, saying that if he could do it, then Jordan could do it. I mean, that's basically the idea. Like, it was this easy for me to figure out her email just from her security question. So, like, he could have done it too. Very quickly realizing that, like, Toby's going through Emma's email, and essentially is like anything that she has shown any interest in, he would then message her about. Jordan would message her about. So it was like he was, I don't want to say grooming, but he was just kind of like using her own interests, like, against her, like, just kind of, I don't know what that's called, but just kind of manipulating her into thinking that they had they had all this stuff in common,
and whatever
movie
causes,
they just went and saw.
It was always like, oh yeah, I love that too. So yeah, he was definitely using her interests to pretend he was a guy she should be interested in, or would be interested in.
So they find the most recent email, and that's where it says where Emma is meeting Jordan. Manny, JT, and Toby rush to the school. I guess this is all in just one neighborhood. Hopefully, they didn't have to run like 8 miles to the school. And yeah, that's where they tell Spike and Snake where Emma is. They just missed a big old scene. The kids just missed a big old scene because right before this happened, that was when Joey called out Keith in front of Caitlin, and Caitlin like doesn't immediately believe Joey, which whatever. But then like right when she turns around and looks at Keith like, is this true? Before you can even say anything, it's Allison that kind of jumps in the middle, is like, so what? He has cold feet or something. She says something like that. I'm like, girl, who are you? Like, get out of here. Get out of here. Like yeah, so they leave the school. Spike calls the police, which you didn't see. You didn't see Spike call the police. You were like, why are they just going to the hotel? I'm like, she called the police. She was on her cell phone. You just didn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, and she's like running like, meet us there. Yeah. And I'm like, she didn't even tell them where they were going.
TV magic.
I am very much a logical person. I need to see things happening. It's a bad trait, I know.
They hurry to the hotel. They Snike and Spike, Spike and Snake. Spike, I almost did it again. Spike and Snake go to the hotel. They go to the hotel room, which I don't think they said which room number it was in the hotel. I think that's where the continuity that you're looking for.
Yeah, because I'm like, how are they going to the exact right door?
TV magic,
again,
baby.
TV magic. Thank goodness they saved Emma.
Emma's able to escape the room. Snake pins Jordan up against the wall, and just as the police arrive, so everyone saved the day. Emma's safe. The next day, the police arrive at Spike's house to confiscate the computer. This guy was a repeat offender, but they never had enough evidence to convict him. The desktop will have enough evidence to put him away for good. End of episode.
Ends of episode.
Pretty intense pilot, I would say.
Yeah.
So I really want to show you Eye of the Beholder. That was the first episode that I saw. We don't have to watch that, obviously. But I mean, like, that was my first episode, and that episode has a lot to do with, like, body image issues and peer pressure, using alcohol to like make you not care, and it was like this whole
to be cool.
Yeah, well, it was very much like this. It was the storyline was about a girl named Terry who is plus size, but she's very pretty, and she has a crush on this guy Spinner, and her friend Paige is kind of like the mean girl, like Regina George character of the show, and kind of like, oh, just have a couple of shots of this and you'll feel better before the dance. And she ends up like getting really drunk at the dance. And that's kind of what the episode's all about. And it's kind of like if she would have just been herself, Spinner liked her anyway. So it was kind of like that was kind of the whole point of it. It was a really cute episode. I think that was why, like, I thought that was either that or Family Politics was the first episode. And I'm like, oh, this show's really cute.
I know, and you're telling me this because I had not watched it. I mean, I watched the old school Degrassi, and we're watching this, and I'm like, this is the pilot?
Yeah.
This is what they're trying to get people to start watching this show?
Yeah, I think it was half let's bring back the old cast, and then half let's introduce parents to the new threat. I think that was the idea.
So did like the older character still stay on?
Yeah, so Snake, Mr. Simpson, he stayed on the show the entire time. He eventually became the principal. They gave him a lot of storylines first, I would say like 10 seasons, and then he kind of just became like a faculty member.
Okay.
They brought back Joey and Caitlin, and well, obviously Spike, because it's Emma's mom. Emma was on the show until like season 9. And so, yeah, she was a character on the show. And then Joey and Caitlin, Joey's stepson, becomes a character on the show. That's kind of a whole season 2 thing. And then after that, there's some here and there. But yeah, those are the 4 that's kind of stuck with the show the longest.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So the pilot does differ from the rest of the season, which is another reason why I kind of forgot it was the pilot. Majority of the cast aren't even in the pilot. Like majority of like the student class. Okay, so the following characters are missing from the pilot: Jimmy Brooks, aka Drake, Spinner Mason, Liberty Van Zant, Paige Michaelchuk, and it is Sean Cameron shows up, I think, in episode 4, And then Ashley Kerwin and Terry McGregor, they have a small part in the pilot, giving the alumni a tour of the newly renovated school, but they're not named. You just see them. So you kind of like you really only know who they are if you go back and watch. Like, oh yeah, they're in the pilot. All right, so we have one last little bit of trivia. So in honor of the late and great Shannon Doherty, Degrassi has some 90210 connections.
Oh, okay.
Kind of some, kind of loosely with Shannon Doherty as well. Okay, so first, Shanae Grimes, she played Darcy Edwards on the show. She left to join the cast of 90210 for the 90210 reboot, and her character paralleled Brenda Walsh, played by Shannon Doherty.
Aww.
Kevin Smith, who we mentioned earlier, was a huge Degrassi fan, and this is a part of one of your favorite facts. He would reference the show in his movies, but most notably in his second film, Mallrats, featured a character named Caitlin, who Kevin named after Caitlin Ryan, also wore a Degrassi jacket throughout the movie. Caitlin was played by Shannon Doherty, who kept the Degrassi jacket, because she kept all of her, everything that she wore in the movie. One last connection, that's the last one I'm doing. Samantha Monroe, who played Anya McPherson. She would later star in the Beverly Hills 90210 story, the unauthorized Beverly. That was kind of like the Lifetime 90210, like behind the true story of 90210. And she played a fictionalized version of Shannon Doherty.
Aww.
And also, there was one more thing, but I forgot. So, there's one more thing off the top of my head that I forgot. And yeah. Oh, well. Anyway, so I know the answer. So, this is one of my favorite shows. I'm going to be honest. I would probably keep watching this show. I kind of wanted to start watching season 1 episodes, but I wasn't going to subject you to that. This is my guilty pleasure show, and I'm not going to force anyone else to watch it. But it did bring back a lot of memories. It did kind of bring me back watching season 1. Me and my mom would watch season 1 together, and she really liked it. And then I remember us watching season 2 premiere, which was also, I guess, just the Degrassi season premieres were just really intense, because the season 2 featured a story about child abuse, and that was also a very intense story. And I always just have memories of like that, my old house in Azalea Lakes, watching Degrassi. And just, being emo, being 2002.
Aw. I would, not based on this pilot, probably more based on your enjoyment and love of the show.
Right.
I would maybe watch random episodes with you, kind of like I do with you.
I would know which
with
ones.
Other shows.
I would know which ones.
I'm always like, let's watch the 90210 prom, or let's watch the 90210 Color Me Bad episode.
So good.
I know. Like, so I could watch those. Like, we've watched the big Drake episode. Yeah. I've watched a couple of other ones with you, but do I think I would actually sit down from pilot throughout the season?
385 episodes.
I don't think so. One, just because obviously I don't know if I'm that interested in it anymore.
I mean, yeah, but it's tough to watch as an adult because you're just like, this is so dramatic. But also, like, for me, it's kind of like you watching 90210 for yourself. It's just kind of like, it's just that show that, like, because 90210 came out when you were in college, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like, and so, like, you weren't a sophomore in high school. So me, when this came out, I was, late teen, early 20s, but I was not in high school. So it was just kind of like my life wasn't like this, but it's a nice little kind of like guilty pleasure high school show.
I will say that I do think that the issues that they talk about still stand true today.
Oh.
I mean, the technology has changed. We've talked about technology. I mean, now you're dealing with kids with phones and tablets, and everyone has one.
So the next class, that was all about social media.
Oh,
that was all about how social media just kind of takes over everyone's life. So it was kind of like so I would there's definitely kind of the later seasons that I've been wanting to watch, because those are the ones that feature Eli, but it's that's when it became a soap opera in a sense that there were like 50 episodes a season.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that's the reason why I haven't been like running to watch those later ones. But yeah, so I mean, this isn't a show that I'm going to be like, if you've never seen the show before, watch it, because it's a lot, and it's also very melodramatic. It's very much a high school show. But if you watch this show, or if you watch Degrassi Junior High or Degrassi High, watch it. I mean, like, just give it a shot. Maybe don't watch the pilot. Maybe start with Family Politics, but
The student council election. Yes. Yeah. an easy battle. Yeah.
So I think that about wraps up this episode. What do you think, Anna?
I mean, like I said, I don't know if I would still watch it. I would watch picked episodes by you that I think that if you know me, I would enjoy that episode. But otherwise, start to finish, probably
I would
not.
I would definitely show you the Breakfast Club episode because that's like reminiscent.
Oh, that's
yeah. And then Mr. Radish dresses like Paul Gleason, so it's kind of like, was that his name?
Yeah,
Paul Gleason. Yeah, he kind of even dresses like him. So I mean, like it's kind of All right, well, that about wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at WeJudgePilotPod. We're also on Facebook. Leave us a comment, maybe suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments.
And later this month, we are going to have a couple, we're going to have one...
That's right.
One guest suggestion.
So we had an extra. We try to do 4 and 4 because that's usually the total for. We usually do 8 episodes a month, but we originally had 9 for this month, and we had that all lined up. But there are 2 shows. I don't know if they're gonna have come out by the time this episode comes out. So I'm not gonna say which ones they are, but we combined 2 shows.
Yeah.
And because they went together, and
so that left
us open, and we were just like trying to think of, well, let's not do a favorite, let's try to do something different. And then Anna suggested, like, well, let's ask
the people.
Let's go on the Facebook and Instagram and ask the people, and we got so many great suggestions. What's really funny is we got a lot of suggestions for shows that we were already doing, which makes us think that we're doing a good job. We're doing the right things.
I was so excited that morning when we looked at the replies, and I was like, oh, we're doing that one.
Yeah, we could talk about it. We had a lot of recommendations for 90210. So we were just like, well, of course. All right. Oh, yeah, emojis. Do you have emojis?
I do. I am your queen of emojis. So I do have a few, not as many as usual. So, of course, I have the computer.
Okay.
I have the school, the Canadian flag, of course. I have a party hat for the reunion.
Yeah, why not?
A car for the car dealership.
Good one.
A snake.
A good one.
TV for the chick who does the show, the journalist.
Yeah. Caitlin's World, yeah.
And then I have a phone to represent dial-up.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to do any of the, anything like that was related totally to
the Emma storyline.
Yeah, to the Emma storyline.
That's good.
I mean, mine, except for the computer, it was key.
Right. Well, that's also the theme of the series.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is it. We are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.